Hello, welcome to Why Such a Fuss podcast. In today's episode, I wanted to share with you some news of recent events in the GDPR world that might affect you. First of all, let's look at the bank rates. So the Information Commissioner has written a joint letter with the UK Finance and Building Society Association in connection with the Consumer Duty. The Consumer Duties requires banks and financial institutions to communicate with people in a certain way, with consumers in a certain way. Now, communications about rates are considered marketing. Therefore, if an individual has opted out, this prevents them from receiving such communications. So in July, the ICO and the UK Finance and Building Society Association, they jointly written a letter about concerns that banks cannot communicate the best rates to their customers because people have the right to opt out of marketing. So what this means is that the ICO has now labeled communications about rates not part of the marketing definition. What that means to you and me is that we can now not opt out from communications about rates. So we are going to receive them whether we like them or not. And I have already seen complaints and unhappy people about this change. The next thing I wanted to cover was something quite exciting, which is the Online Safety Bill, which is finally here and it will become law soon. Now, what this bill does, place new duties on social media companies and makes the UK the safest place in the world to be online. So this is the most powerful child protection laws in a generation and a major milestones for our government. It will ensure that adults are better empowered to take control of their online lives and also protecting our mental health. The bill has been formulated with a zero tolerance approach in the protection of children and holds the social media companies responsible for the content hosted on their platforms. Now, they face heavy fines, as much as billions of pounds, and even prison sentences. If illegal content is not removed fast, or they don't prevent children being exposed to material that could be harmful to them, for example, bullying. The next piece of news that I wanted to share with you, if you remember, in 2021, the ECJ, or the European Court of Justice, annulled the US Privacy Shield and is referred in the data protection world as the Schrems II case. I would encourage you to Google it to find out a bit more. What that means is that they declared basically that the privacy shields were no longer adequate for the cross-border transfer of personal data to the US. Since then, the EU has now agreed just recently what they now call the EU-US Data Privacy Framework. This means that between the EU and the US, data can flow freely. Now, Schrems, who's an activist, and his followers have already declared that they will go after it, just like they did with the Privacy Shield. So EU businesses are not rushing in changing their cross-border mechanism, so they will continue to use their standard contract clauses, or SCCs. So the UK has jumped on the wagon and decided that the framework that the EU has negotiated with the US is good enough. So now we have the UK-US data breach. This means that data can flow freely from the UK to the US, providing that the organization in the US that the data is being transferred to is signed up to the data privacy framework that the EU and US have put in place and that the UK has attached itself onto. Also recently, there have been a number of data breaches in various police establishments, such as Northern Ireland, Cumbria, Norfolk and Suffolk, not to mention the latest one where the data of victims of domestic abuse was made available to their perpetrators, putting their lives at risk. So data protection, or GDPR, is there to protect people from coming to harms via their data. That is the purpose of the GDPR. If you would like to know more about GDPR and how it applies to your business, we can be reached at info@cvgsolutions.co.uk. Alternatively, on social media, just search for CVG Solutions. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram, or through our website, www.cvgsolutions.co.uk. Thank you for listening and see you in the next episode.